Granite temples were pioneered by Pallava kings in a very big way and the Pandya kings in India for the first time. This is a granite structure. And look at, you can't even put your hand inside. It is from a single stone they have carved. There are 161 such pillars that make these musical sounds. Now, if you have to make musical sounds, you should know what is called sound engineering. I'll use today's terms. You should know sound engineering because you should know frequency, you should know amplitude. In physics, they will teach all that. So, without knowing all that, you cannot make that frequency. And people who knew that never tried it on a stone. People who knew it 500, 700 years later have never tried it on a stone. Whereas we tried everything on stone. That is the greatness of this temple. Om Vagartha Viva Sampraktau Vagartha Pratipattaye Jagata Pitaro Vande Parvati Parameshwaro Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Sada Shiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Hari Om. So I would talk a little bit about the Indian knowledge system. So it is a very strange anubhava for all of us that we have to make extraordinary effort to understand Indian knowledge system in a formal sense. In our day-to-day life, we are anyway, we do practice, we do experience Indian knowledge, but in a very formal sense, it is not part of our education system at all so far. I mean, this is I do not know what to speak of it. It is so unfortunate that any attempt, even a slightest attempt to bring in Indian knowledge system, people see red in it or saffron in it, to be more precise. And we have reached that kind of a situation now. Now, this situation, towards the end, I will talk about it. Why did we land in this mess? It is very important for us to know it. I'm not going to get into it now. All that I am saying is a country which has a parampara for millennia. In fact, in my first chapter of the book, I created a table of some important works in Indian knowledge system. The question was, how do you time bracket it? This was a question I had faced. Because Veda, you cannot put it in some time. So, in mathematics, there is something called open interval. If you say less than, it is open interval. If you say less than or equal to, it is a closed interval. Because, less than or equal to, so it cannot go beyond that. So I used in the modern parlance, they use dark ages. Dark ages was already very bright in India. That's what I finally found. Because the texts that listed under dark ages, so-called dark ages, because I use the contemporary conversation, sometimes it helps to even clarify these issues. So this country, in every text, you take Arthashastra. Arthashastra, people are saying 2200, 300 years old, Kautilya's Arthashastra. When I say Arthashastra, Kautilya's Arthashastra. But then the first mantra he says is, it is not my work. I am only collecting what Ushanas and Bharadwaj and all these people have said. But I am going to disagree with some of them, agree with some of them. So Arthashastra is not 2300 years old. 2300 years old, he put it to some, if you look at Ayurveda, Sushruta will say the same thing. This is the legacy of this country. That, now Nilesh Oak is saying Surya Siddhanta is 11,000 BC. He is bringing his own arguments and all that kind of things. I do not even, for us, 11,000 BC doesn't really bother us because we say Treta Yuga, we say Satya Yuga, Krita Yuga, and all that. In modern parlance, they are not going to agree to any of those. And we seem to be part of this story. That the Western world woke up 2000 years back. Until then, we do not know what was there in the West. It woke up 2000 years back. And as though before that nothing existed, there was no knowledge. And the Westerners brought some knowledge. Our children are educated like that today. So in that backdrop, we have to see Indian knowledge system. This is the point I want to first of all say, that the backdrop in which we have to see Indian knowledge system is one in which it is very difficult to take it with a pinch of salt. Our own people have been created, have been groomed like that. I am part of such education system. God has been kind to me. I stepped out of it. Some samskara, because of which I was able to step out of it and then see it with the help of a few gurus. I was able to see through it a little bit. So the current establishment, the central government is very serious to bring it back. There is a very vibrant attempt called Department of Indian Knowledge System, which we created in 2019. I was one of the founding member of that 5-member team which created under MHRD what is called Indian Knowledge Systems. And I am seeing that it is not going to be that easy. We are doing upstream swimming. Idopi kinchit kalam avashyakam. But it is okay. As my only worry is we should not be traveling on the wrong road. If you're traveling on the right road, even if you pass for some time, walk slowly, I am okay. So we have now gone from the wrong road to the right road now. So that gives me a sense of comfort. So with this background, I have to use, because there are some photos and figures I cannot explain. It's better I show it. Indian knowledge system is living. It is not something dead or something which is non-existent or anything of that kind. These are all living traditions, but we never bothered to bring it to our attention of our own people, youngsters, and make them see through the value of it, do some research in it. All that is going to happen in the next 15 years. The youngsters are going to pick it up in a big way. I may not be able to do it. Maybe we are all doing it in our own limited sense, but it will happen in a big way. So let me just start. I do not know how many of you can recognize this. This is one of the biggest temple in Tirunelveli district, called Nellayappar. This is a photo from Nellayappar temple. So I was born in that district. Sengote is my place of birth. 15 years I lived there. That was the biggest blessing I had. I never went to a big city until I came to IIM Bangalore. I never knew big cities, or I came to Chennai for a PhD and all that, IIT and so on. This temple has several Vaisishtya. There are very special things about this. What I am showing here, this is the only temple, even today you can go and then tap all these pillars and see 7 notes of music. It's a musical pillar. In Madurai temple it is there. When I was a child, because my native is Madurai, we used to go and tap. Now they have actually put, in the South Adi Veedi, musical pillars are like irukku. They have now enclosed it because Madurai number of people visiting is very high. They keep tapping this pillar, it will all break. Tirunelveli still it is possible. So this is built 1,500 years back. 1,500 years back, this temple was built by Nindrasir Nedumaran, a Pandya king. And musical pillars are very common. If you want to know science, engineering, technology, do Kshetratana. You have to just visit temples. Temple was everything. I am telling you seriously. Temple was everything. If you want to know science, engineering, technology, go to temples. See, we go to temple and then go to the Mukhya Devata, Garbhagraha. But please make it a point, henceforth when you go to a temple, if you spend half an hour, 45 minutes in the Garbhagraha and Sannidhanam, you should pray. Spend another 1 hour and see around. You will find the best facets of science and engineering technology. conceived 1500 years back at least. The first thing is, building this temple is impossible. Granite is the hardest known material for mankind. Granite வந்து work பண்றது not easy. If you want to work on a granite, you need what is called high speed alloy steel. The tools that you use must be harder than the material. This is a simple rule, no? The material with which you are trying to shape another material must be at a higher level. You need a guru for a shishya. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Right? So, if you want to work on granite temples were pioneered by Pallava kings in a very big way and the Pandya kings in India for the first time. This is a granite structure. And look at, you can't even put your hand inside. It is from a single stone they have carved. That is the pillar I am talking about. 48 pillars, a cluster of 48 pillars carved from a single stone. So what tools they used, how they carved, it will easily break if you don't have the right tool. Either the tool will break or the granite stone will break. Sarvam vyartham bhavet. You have to be careful. So they have created this. There are 161 such pillars that make these musical sounds. Now, if you have to make musical sounds, you should know what is called sound engineering. I'll use today's terms. You should know sound engineering. Because you should know frequency, you should know amplitude. In physics, they will teach all that. So without knowing all that, you cannot make that frequency. And people who knew that never tried it on a stone. People who knew it 500, 700 years later have never tried it on a stone. Whereas we tried everything on stone. That is the greatness of this temple. Next time if you go to Tirunelveli, it's a very big temple. Nillayappa temple. Go and see these structures. You'll understand what kind of a pedigree we have, what kind of a background we have come from. We should know the Hanuman in us. So when you tap one pillar, because they are all closely held pillars with a little gap, surrounding pillars will vibrate because the sound travels. You should go and try it. You will really appreciate what I am saying. This is the heights of engineering in 700 BC, 700 AD, if you want. Which civilization was able to even think about this? We have been able to not think, make it happen. Everybody this is a very famous pillar in Qutub Minar. This was shifted to Qutub Minar in 300 AD. It was not in Qutub Minar. It was in somewhere in Orissa. They knocked it off and then took it there. Assuming it was there, doesn't matter. It is in open sky. It has weathered for the last around 2000 years. No rust. No rust. They have not kept it in a strong room. They have not kept it in a locker. They have left it in the open. Rain, temperature, heat, everything. No rust. This pillar. Iron pillar. This is the only pillar people know. I can give you at least 20 sites in India. If you go to Kollur, which is 50 kilometers from Sringeri, Kollur is 40 kilometers from Arabian Sea. So the chances of corrosion must be high there. There is a pillar which is not rusted. Next time if you go to Kollur, go and see. There is an iron pillar there. And on the seashore in Puri, 107 Bhubaneswar, which is 20 kilometers from the sea, 177 iron beams, full of iron beams. Temple there. So that's what it is. This country had a great technology in what is called iron and steel. See, iron, steel, if you read metallurgy, which they teach in engineering, steel is nothing but ferrous iron plus carbon. That's what steel is. If you take iron and mix carbon in a particular proportion, you will get different. This is a very big ticket item today. The entire metallurgy is only on ferrous carbon alloy. I am just throwing jargons at you because you should not get worried when people talk about all these. We all know all that. It's called ferrous carbon alloy. I have also learned metallurgy because I am a mechanical engineer. If you are a mechanical engineer, there is one diagram you should know, otherwise you are not a mechanical engineer. It is called temperature time transformation diagram. It's a 3-dimension. At different temperature, at different times, what will happen to this metal? இதுதான் மெட்டலர்ஜியோட சென்ட்ரல் தீம். இது இல்லாமல் you can never become a mechanical engineer. So the high speed alloy steel, stainless steel, என்னெல்லாமோ சொல்றோம் இன்னைக்கு, there are different terms. Indians were very good in a steel, and which was exported from Kodungalur. See, at that time there were 2 important ports, Kodungalur on the west coast and Pumbuhar on the east coast. From Pumbuhar we went far east. From Kodungalur we went to Rome. So Damascus blade, see, warfare was not bomb and all that, it was all sword, talwars. To manufacture that, the only steel used is called wood steel, imported from India. When? BC time onwards. It is called wood steel. Why? Because that wood steel is manufactured only a place not far from here. இங்கேருந்து ஒரு 100 kilometers தான். That's where the wood steel was manufactured. It is called ukku in Kannada, urukku in Tamil. ஸ்டீலுக்கு பேர் உருக்கு, சேலம் உருக்கு ஆலை. So foreigners simply, urukku and ukku are too much for them. They call it as woods. That's how the name changed. 1923, there is a metallurgy conference. They were trying hard to find out how to replicate the composition of wood steel. They have not succeeded. Britishers killed the wood steel in 19th century. They slapped mining ban. They slapped huge production tax, and they brought it to a grinding halt. Finished. The great legacy of metalworking, which Indians alone had, we lost. Lost in the sense, the government squeezed the neck. Zinc. Nobody in the world knew how to extract zinc. Because zinc, எப்படின்னு கேட்டீங்கன்னா, 500 degree from the zinc. See, all metals are extracted only from a ore. You dig and then take the ore from the earth. Then you boil it. Whether it is gold or iron, everything has to be done like that. Zinc, the problem was, when you melt the ore at 500 degrees centigrade, zinc will vaporize. It come out of the ore like vapor. At 550 degrees centigrade, it will become zinc oxide. So zinc கிடைக்காது. You have to catch it between 500 and 600. Nobody in the world knew. Indians knew it. So they developed a methodology called downward drift distillation process. And the gas அப்படி வரும்போது அதை ஒரு குழாய், take it through a pipe and cool it in another place and extract the metal. Nobody knew in the world. In 11th century AD, Indian production of zinc was industrial grade, million tons, where the world was scratching to find out what is zinc. So I can go on copper, gold, all. We were absolutely fabulous in metalworking technology. We do not know where they are today. So this is a living example of that. This is called Kallanai, the Grand Anai Cut. This is the only surviving dam in the world. There are only 4 oldest dams in the world. People history, recent history means 2200 years. In recent history, they located only 4 dams, out of which only one is surviving. That is Karigalan Kattivaitha Kallanai. This is the only one which is surviving. Britishers increased the height by, the structure was never touched. It was only, they slightly raised it by a few inches and all that. So if I have to use today's term, Indians were very good in what is called watershed management. If I have to use a word like that. Uttaramerur inscriptions in irukku. If you go and see, there are beautiful description of how we manage water bodies. Not only here. If you go to Rajasthan, if you go to the western parts of the India, there is, I don't know how many of you have seen what is called step well. Such a beautiful structure for water management. Step wells. It is aesthetics, water management, religion, God, everything combined into one structure. Such a beautiful step wells are there. Rajasthanis know how to squeeze gypsum and take water out of it. It's our technology. So desert people have enough water. They say, give a phone call, we'll send you water to Bangalore if you have water shortage. We are very good in watershed management. If you go to Bihar area, there is something called Ain and Pine system. Again, water. How to manage water. That is why we were flourishing. We knew that, we knew pravritti and nivritti both are important. See, Shankaracharya, when he wrote the Bhashya for Bhagavad Gita, there was a Upodgata, there was a preamble, very unusual for Acharya to write. He said, Dvivido Vedokto Dharmaha Pravritti Lakshano Nivritti Lakshanasya Jagataha Sthiti Karanam. He says Pravritti Lakshana, Nivritti Lakshana is required Jagataha Sthiti Karanam. Sakshat Praninam Abhyudaya Nishreyasa Hetuhu. That's what he said. So we knew it. We were good in Pravritti and Nivritti. What is today's education? Just swing it only to Pravritti. Make money, make money. Money is everything. Then I asked some of my managers, so when will you become spiritual? Sir, after I become retired. Then I asked them, today is retirement, today evening you'll come and sleep, tomorrow morning you get up and you become spiritual. It is a 30-year investment. At the age of 30, you should start to become spiritual. You cannot retire today, sleep today morning, tomorrow morning get up, you are embodiment of spirituality. That is our culture. Sanatana dharmasya vishaya. Pravritti dharmasya, nivritti dharmasya, ubhayasyapi asmabhihi prayatnam karaniyam iti. Ashrama dharmasya vaisishtyam tateva. Ashrama dharmam adukku dhaan vechirukku. That as you go along, you are very good in pravritti dharma and you also know nivritti dharma. May differentially apply it. That is okay. So that is the kind of culture. So all these are part of pravritti dharma. We were very good in that. There are so many things. 1804 British raised it by a few inches and etc. etc. Konark. If you want to know astronomy, if you want to know how difficult to understand astronomy, you should go and visit this temple. Because each one of them is a sundial. You can see the time by the shadow of the sun. There are 24 of them around the Ratha, like Ratha wheel. Every day the sun as it rises, the first rays of the sun will fall on the Garbhagraha. That is how the temple was constructed. Temple is in shambles today. The Dutch came and then, because they had no meaning for it, they just plundered and took everything and went away. So if every day during sunrise, if the first ray of the sun has to fall on the Devata, you should be an ustad in astronomy, otherwise you can't do. Because you should know the movement of sun and moon, the entire precession of the universe you should know. We were extraordinarily good in mathematics and astronomy in addition to metalworking technology. I mean, I'm not talking about Vedanta, I'm not talking about philosophy, I'm not going to do that. I don't have to do it. You have enough of that. I am saying we were very good in all these. That is the other side of the Indian knowledge system which I wanted to show you. So all these were possible. 13th century, 800, 900 years back, they have put up a structure with good knowledge of astronomy. Otherwise, it is not possible. It is simply not possible. We should not waste our time. Unless you know astronomy, you can't do what they were. It is not, magic, or it is not some. You have to know properly how the movement of the sun, Uttarayana, Dakshinayana, everything we should know. Only then the sun ray can fall on the presiding deity first every day morning. That is this temple. Etat ekameva udaharanam. Etat sarvam ekameva udaharanam. Bahuri udaharanani santi. There are hundreds of them. I am only showing here and there one or two, just to give you a sense of what is this Indian knowledge that we are talking about. This can be what is called a Panchaloha. Panchaloha means there are 5 metals. So Indians know how to even mix 5 metals, not one metal. Right? Gold, silver, copper, right? Lead, iron. You can mix all that. Panchaloha idols. And what do we read today? Every day we read either the idols are smuggled out of India or with great difficulty we bring it back. This is all we are reading. Do you want to have a culture which is only reading these things? You Kumbhakonam poningna inniki idu panninu iruka. It's a trade which is dropping, unfortunately. Now there are very interesting trades in this country. Aranmula nu or iடம் இருக்கு near Pandalam, Sabarimalaikku முன்னாடி. Parsarathi Koil, there's a very beautiful Parsarathi Koil in Aranmula. If you go there, they'll give you a mirror. It's very famous in Aranmula. The mirror is made of metal. It is not the mirror in the usual mirror. It is made of metal. The metal is polished in such a level that it is a mirror. Each mirror will weigh some 10, 20 kgs, even a small mirror, because it is metal, solid metal. That trade is going out. That's not easy to do. With the current set of 30,000 RPM, 50,000 revolution per minute machines, they cannot make that polish. The process is different there. So I can give many such examples regionally. So these Panchaloha idols, manufacturing of these Panchaloha idols is available in, it is called Madhuchishta Vidhanam. Madhu Uchishta Vidhanam. Vishnu, it is there in Vishnu Dharmottara Purana. Very nicely written. How do you know, Uchishta is left out. Madhu is honey. So in 17th century, Westerners found this process. It's called last wax. There is some French term, Pierre day, some process. What is that? Madhuchishta Vidhanam. How do you create the mold which gives such sharp objects? I mean, look at the features of these idols. These are all the courtesy Chola kings. 7th century AD to 11th century AD, you will find that we were at the pinnacle of making such dolls. Today we are only busy smuggling it out or bringing it back. If you want to do it, you should know metallurgy again. You should know how properties of metals, what proportion you should mix. ஒரு மைசூர் பாகு பண்ண முடியல, எல்லாம் உதிர்ந்துடுறது கட்டி. You can't even make one halwa or one Mysore pak. You're talking of mixing 5 metals in some proportion. It's not easy. That's why I'm giving that example. It's not easy. Don't think it is easy. If you don't get the right combination, the metal will not set. It will go like this broken Mysore pak. That is the point I'm making. So they are very good in metallurgy. Right? The process they adapted to make such sharp features. Absolutely fabulous. Varaha Mihira in the 5th century AD has what is called Brihat Samhita, which is more or less like an encyclopedia. Somebody can read Brihat Samhita alone. You get astronomy, you get... In Brihat Samhita, there are 5... So this is iconography. I'm talking about iconography now. In Brihat Samhita, he has given 5 models humanoid. 5 models for male and 5 models for female. What do I mean by that? What is the ratio of this to this? What is the ratio of this to this? What is the ratio of upper limb to lower limb? I do not know why these textile manufacturers are not reading it. Ready-mades can be made much better. Is it not? All iconography texts, Samarangana Sutradhara, whether it is Mayamatam, they will go to Brihat Samhita and take those 5 models. So Indians were very deep in observation. Otherwise, that's why we were good in astronomy. We were very keen observers. We were hugely scientific. We were not blind for thinking and all that. Westerners have told us in the last 200 years, and we are all learning it in our classes. So we were all told that we are all blind, faith, and people use the word blind faith. I tell them, don't use blind faith. Faith is always blind. Don't unnecessarily use the word blind there. Faith means proof is strictly unnecessary. Sanatana Dharmasya Mukhya Adharaha Pramana is Shraddha. Shraddha is not equal to faith. You cannot do it like that. I'm just saying. Okay. So this again we were very good. Madhu Chishta Vidhanam. I taught it in Chinmaya University. And where did I take this from? From a Department of Mathematics in one university in Canada. Paudayana Sulba Sutra. How do you, the question is, how do you make any shape? Here it is a construction for square. How do you make any shape with what? You have only a stick and a thread. That's all you have. One stamba is there, one raju is there. That's all you have. How do you make complex shapes? And when you tie a thread to a stick, you can only generate a circle. If you take the thread around the stick, what will happen? Only you will get a circle. So Indians know to use only circle and generate any shape. It is called cyclical geometry in today's terms. Cyclical geometry. Indians are very good. All our Sulba Sutras, Katyayana Sulba Sutra, Bodhayana Sulba. This is actually there is a shloka from Bodhayana Sulba Sutra with which I used to give the shloka and say first part talks about step 1, step 2, like that. I used to construct this to my students just to tell them, don't think Indians didn't know any mathematics. As an example, I used to show this. So just with a pole anchored on the ground. Why? Because we had 77 different Vedis. Our altar that we made, there are 77 varieties. Kurma was there. Senachiti is very famous. Falcon, flying kite. There is one in Uttarakhand even today. I took a photo and put it in my book, 2300 years old. It's in a very bad shape, but you are still able to see the Senachiti. And there are many Senachitis I see around. Now, to make a Senachiti is not easy. There are 5 different shaped bricks. You have to use exactly 200, not one more, not one less. Garhapatya and Ahavaniya and all these Dakshina, one must be a square, one must be a circle. Circle must be exactly equal to square. If circle must be exactly equal to square in area, you need pi, because pi r square is equal to a square. Is it not? The area of a circle is pi r square. If you know the radius, pi r square is the area of a circle. Square, if one side is a, the area of a square is a square, is the elementary 3rd standard, 4th standard geometry. But if both of them should be of the same area, which is what these Vedis are all about, you have Dakshina Agni, Garhapatya and Ahavaniya and all that, and then you have Darshapurna in between and so on. Now you know pi, you should know pi. Indians had some 22 different approximations for pi. Chaturadikam Sadamashtagunam 62,832 by 20,000. There is one. There is one Madhavacharya, 11 digits. In fact, the highest pi is called an irrational number. Irrational number means decimals can keep on, it will never stop. That's called an irrational number. And Ramanujan's approximation for pi has 1.9 million digits. You cannot even imagine 1.9 million digits. Ramanujan has the highest approximation for pi in Indian, who lived 150 years, 100 years before. This is a legacy of our people. This is the Senachiti. It took 8 hours for me to do this for my book, because I didn't know how these 200 will fit, because I could not find references. So I kept on trying and finally got how the 200. This is like the kids, if you give the jigsaw puzzle, they will do it. This is a jigsaw puzzle I solved because I didn't have a reference. Exactly 2, and the table says what are the size of the bricks, how many number is required, how many goes into the head, how many goes into the body, how many goes into the wings, how many goes into the tail. And all these they made only with a stick and a thread around it, Sulba Sutra. That's why it is part of Kalpa, Vedanga. This is an astonishing piece. What you see on the left is called a magic square, simple magic square, which means all rows will add up to 34, all columns will add up to 34, the 2 diagonals will add up to 34. That is what you see on the left, the brown color. 12 plus 3 plus 6 plus 13 will be 34. If you take the diagonal, 13 plus 4 plus 16 plus 1 will be 34. That itself, we don't know how to do it. What you see on the right, it is called pan-diagonal magic square. What it means is, instead of seeing it like this, instead of seeing it like a sheet, see it like a cylinder. Don't think it is a sheet. Think it can be rolled. If you roll it, the diagonal for 13, 16, 4 will be 1. Because if you roll it, the next number will come there on that side. All of them will add up to 34. So there are many pan diagonal. There are so many diagonals now. 13, 6, 4. The next number will be, think of it as a cylinder. The next number will be that fellow. He'll be on that side, no? That will also add up to 34. So not only columns add up 34, rows add up 34, main diagonal adds up 34. Any number of diagonals can be constructed, and all of them add to 34. This is called pan-diagonal magic square. Indians solved it 2200 years back. And Narayana Pandita in 1495 or 1395, I think, Narayana Pandita actually gave a proof. He didn't give a proof. He didn't tell the proof. He said for this 4 by 4. See, this is, if you see, this has a number from 1 to 16. The 1 to 16 is arranged in some format here. If you want to arrange a number 1 to 16 in a 4 by 4 matrix and create a pan-diagonal magic square, he said there are 383 such possibilities. In 1495, he said. In 1920, the Western mathematicians, one fellow came and said, I think there are only 20 such possibilities. Then 8 years later, they said 383. Exactly what Narayana Pandita said. And he gave a construction algorithm, Turaga Gati. It's like a horse ride. That algorithm is called Turaga Gati. And what to speak of this country's knowledge? None of us know it. Because this will not be taught. This will not be taught in any of the subjects here. So we need to teach. We need to teach all these, because only then we get inspired, we'll dip into it and use it and come. You may ask, sir, I am a professor of management. We ask, what is the use of this? Do you know what is the use of this? If you give me 34 people, I will actually, and I have to allocate them for 4 different jobs. I have 383 possible ways by which I can actually allocate. If you give me 4 ingredients and make a perfume, because this problem was also solved by Varaha Mihira in his Brihat Samhita. If you give me 4 ingredients and then mix it in some proportion and give me perfumes, he said, I'll give you 383 different perfumes. Because, in different combinations you are mixing it. So a lot of application. Don't think these are all fancy. And this is called Bhadra Ganita. This is called Bhadra Ganita. Why it is called Bhadra Ganita? Today you go to Indore, you go to, some of the North Indian, shops, they would have drawn this. It is called Bhadra Ganitam because depending upon the number, if it is 50, it means something. If it is 30, it means, marriage will happen. Like we had a culture like this. So they were constructing this. I have, in some old places on the wall, they have done, that's why it's called Bhadra Ganitam. So this is the legacy I'm talking about. This is the knowledge system that I am talking about. Not to speak of our Vedanta, our Ramayana, our Itihasa and all that. I only given you the snapshots. I will now tell you how can we see all these in one framework. What is this Indian knowledge system? Okay. There are 3 words: Indian, knowledge and system. Indian means there is a geographical meaning, there is a demography meaning. Geographical meaning is Akhanda Bharat. It starts from Afghanistan and from there up to Burma. This India is a political formation which is 75 years old. This is not Bharat. This is Britishers' play, which, for practical purposes, we have to live with it. But then, that is not Bharat. Akhanda Bharatam. Asmakam drishtihi sada evameva bhavitovyam. Akhanda Bharatam. Bharatam ityukte Akhanda Bharatam. So that is the geographical meaning. What is the demographical meaning? None of the work written by foreigners are Indian. I want to tell this very clearly to you. When I started writing the book, I wasted 1 month reading some, Max Miller and so on. I found they did not bring what is to be brought. It's very difficult. This culture only we know. So the definition is those who are born here, lived here, they are part of this Samskriti. No, in that context, some foreigners are also part of it. There is one lady by name, she came to Calcutta University, 12 varsham. Her book on Hindu temple is the reference. I don't think anybody can write. Her book on Vishnu Dharmottara Purana is the reference. She was part of this culture. She was part of this culture. So there is a meaning of what is Indian. Indian is those who have lived through the samskara. In my book, I have given a quote from a Dutch famous philosopher called Calend. Shatapatha Brahmana, he has actually given a, translation. This translation goes like this. The earth is separated from heavenly bodies by stacking 1,000 cows one over the Uttaradara Shata Gavaha, Sahasra Gavaha, one mantra is there. So he thought Gava means cow. He has to go to what is called in one of the Vedanga, is a dictionary for Veda. Nigaddu. There are 38 meanings for go. He didn't know that. So my advice is you should read Indian work? Because we understand the meaning of what we are doing. It is not with the dictionary. So many people read Ramayana with the Sanskrit dictionary. Sanskrit is one language for which you don't need a dictionary. Dictionary cannot give you anything. Tasya upayogah eva nasti. If you know the basic structure, that is enough. Like that. Knowledge comes out of deep thinking, observation, validation. Asmakam purvajaihi sada evameva kritam. They were always doing only this. Keen observers, validating, verifying it, testing it out. That is called knowledge. It can be oral, it can be also formal, informal. Lipi avashyakam iti na. यदि लिपि अस्ति तस्य किञ्चित् लिखित्वा स्थापितुम् अवकाशः लभ्यते. We don't have to necessarily have everything in a written form. System, we have a lot of methods. There is a Chaturdasha Vidyasthana. There are different nice methodological frameworks to classify the system. I will only show one quick classification. Literary and non-literary. In literary, you can say Sanatana Dharma and other dharmic traditions. Core and other. Okay. Regional. As much as you have in Sanskrit, you have in all Indian languages. Right? You have Kambaramayanam. Ramayanam is available in so many, for example. Ramcharitamanas is there. So, for everything that you find in the core literature which is in Sanskrit, you have found that the regional languages have improvised it, retold it, told it in a context which is much more understandable for them. Mula uddeshasya parivartanam kadapi na bhavati. What is to be conveyed is always conveyed. But then the way it is conveyed, so the regional literature is much bigger than this literature. All these. So you have Chaturdasha Vidyasthana, in which you have Veda, Vedanga, Dharma Shastras, Itihasa, you have Shad Darshanas, Ityadikam, Vishnu Purane Etasya Vivaranam Vartate, Katam Etad Bhavati, 14 or 18 part classification is all those is there. There is a very rich, I showed only the other part of it. You name, dyes and chemicals. We have what is called Vajra Lepa, again Brihat Samhita. How to prepare a wall? That is why after 2500 years, they are not fading. Why is that not fading? Because how do you prepare the surface? Vajra Lepa, there is a formula to prepare a surface before you paint. We have thought about it. So I went to a Sigiriya fort in Sri Lanka. That is also not fading. Because